Good evening, Matt.
Excuse me, please address me by my D&D name. I'm going by Dungeon Master Flash now.
It's about time.
Do you have a D&D nickname?
No, I can't.
A stage name? A DJ name?
I can't beat Dungeon Master Flash. I'm obviously Dungeon Master Blaster. If we're gonna go with this,
who rule 10 towns?
I do. God damn it! Hello, everyone. Welcome to Dungeon Master of None.
I am Dungeon Master Flash.
I am Dungeon Master Blaster, and this is part 2 of our review of Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden.
We finally get to the actual rhyme in this part, which is good.
Yeah,
it's a double meaning. You get it. It's a rhyme.
Yeah,
it's also a rhyme.
It's
it's
a whole,
but a song, a poem.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's good. So
it's clever. It's very clever.
The second half is very different, but maybe easier to review in that we're talking about chapters 3 through the appendices.
It's a lot more linear, and please listen to the first part of this review if you haven't already, because there's a reason that it's a two-parter. And the first 2 chapters are very non-linear, and we like that, but there was a lot to talk about with, how to like make that work. These are a little bit more linear,
right?
And there's some exceptions to that, but this should be a little bit more straightforward. So please, if you haven't, listen to the first part and then listen to this one, because also this is going to be full of spoilers, and also it won't make a whole lot of sense.
Yes. Spoilers ahead. Also, we say these are linear, but one of the great things I want to say about the second half before we get started is all of these adventures are seeded and rumored and should mostly flow naturally from the character's exploration in Chapter 1 of the 10 Towns and in Chapter 2 of the broader Dale.
Yeah. And one of the things we talked about in the first part of the review was the ways in which that sometimes doesn't translate, and that the DM may have to do some extra work. But theoretically, if your players are paying attention and if you're doing a good job, then these should sort of, this, I guess we would call it part 2 of Rime of the Frostmaiden, should flow naturally from what you've done in the first 2 chapters. Again, that is in theory. It is designed that way. Whether or not it will actually play out in practice, it kind of remains to be seen. We'll talk. One of the things I want to talk about specifically is the transition between the more open-ended, freeform Chapter 1 and 2 and Chapter 3, because I think that's very interesting and also potentially pretty hard, or potentially easy to fuck up if you're not careful.
I think the advice we would give dungeon masters running this is don't make it a hard transition. One of the strengths of this entire adventure is that these 4 more kind of linear big plots, right? Chapters 3 through 7 can be introduced while there are still open-ended quests and other things for the characters to explore in Icewind Dale, and they should be encouraged to go back and forth between these. That goes for some of the adventures more than the others, but yeah. They don't, it doesn't have to be, all right, the hex crawling without a hex is over. Now you've got to do in order these 4 adventures, right? There is really there's level guidance, but there's no strict order for these.
Yeah, aside from the difficulty of the quests or the dungeons themselves, there's no order that you have to do these last 4 in. And that's good. And I will, before we get into specifics, I want to say that each of these, especially the last chapter, is something that you could really chunk. These are all very chunkable. You could most of them are, or each of them is in one way or another, sort of centers around a big bad and a dungeon, and you could pick up and drop that in all kinds of other adventures as a side quest, or as a mini boss, or as a mini dungeon, or as a stumbling block along the way, and it would work really well. Again, that's one of the things that we like about this book, is that it is very easy to borrow from without having to do a ton of extra work.
Yeah, absolutely. Shall we dive into the first chapter or 2 chapters?
Let's do it.
Okay. So chapters 3 and 4 detailed the evil Drugar who is trying to conquer Icewind Dale
Matt,
and his fortress. Oh,
I gotta stop you there. It's like
Drugar?
every time you say Durgar,
Duragar.
D-U-E-R-G-A-R, Durgar.
Okay,
whatever it is,
fine.
it is, it's definitely not Drugar.
Well, I'm gonna get on you then for saying I think it's Dro, not Drow.
That's fine. If you're right, then I'll switch to Dro.
Well,
the R doesn't come anywhere near the beginning of the word. You're just coming up with Drugar.
In next to the Dwergar are the Snifferblum.
Snifferblum. Yeah,
There's
I'm not
none
even
of
gonna try
those,
to.
sadly. I think.
I'm not even going to try to say deep gnomes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Anyway, continue your.
Right. There's the fortress of these evil Underdark dwarfs, we will say, and they're basically doomsday weapon, a dragon made of chardelin.
Yeah.
Big
and
construct dragon that is super metal and badass.
Metal, robot, badass dragon that shoots horrible beams of radiant light and burninates the countryside if you're not careful. And yeah, so 3 and 4 are really interesting. So these 2 chapters are distinct but intertwined. So what's happening is you, the players, have been dicking around in 10 towns for who knows how long, investigating things, finding stuff. You may have, if you came across the right quests or the right areas, encountered some Duragar of your own, or some invisible footprints, or some invisible thieves. If you're very, very on it, your players may have discovered that this is in fact, Duragar. They're both of the big bad Zardarok's sons are out and about in the 10 towns stealing stuff, mostly more Chardelin.
I believe the names of those were Hude and Kusei Sunblight.
Chort and Gert, his large adult sons, just romping in the 10 towns. But depending on how it goes, you may not have any idea, and this is one of the problems. You may not know that anything is happening, and you probably almost certainly don't know that Zardarok is about to release a Chardelin dragon to burn all of the 10 towns to the ground. So this is where Chapter 3 begins.
Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding of reading Chapters 3 and 4 is that Zardock has this doomsday dragon. It can, as written, basically destroy everything the characters have built in their relationships in the 10 towns. The trigger for its attack is they arrive at his fortress, no matter what.
Right. So here's what happens. So at some point, your players are the module hopes that they will take it upon themselves to learn of this quest, that they may find it about themselves and then go to investigate. But if not, one of the speakers of the 10 towns says, "Hey, dumbasses, there's a bunch of invisible people walking around. Can you go to this fortress Sunblight and deal with it?" So hopefully, this is one of the problems, I think, with this chapter in this module, is that there's plenty of good reasons to go there, but also not any distinct trigger. And your players may need encouraging.
Yeah, but the more clues for this, the better. There are, I think, enough clues in this, but
I think so too.
I feel like the players, before they arrive here, should know that that Zardarok is planning an invasion, right?
The problem is there's 10,000 things going on in the first 2 chapters, so they may not know that this is a very important thing and not just another random hook, unless they're paying
just so consumed with thinking about the giant lesser goddess that is in the sky overhead every goddamn night, people doing human sacrifice, their new friends, the evil tieflings,
They might be confused and think that the human sacrifice is actually an important plot point, but as it turns out, it's not. So what happens is they're encouraged to possibly even railroaded into going to Zardarok's fortress. They've got to cross the spine of the world, the gigantic mountain range.
No, not actual spine of the world.
Unfortunately. Wasn't the big mountain range between the Aiel and the rest of the world in
The Wheel of Time?
Yes, also called the Spine, or just not the Spine of the World or something like that. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. You're correct. But I think there are, like, the setup here is really interesting, especially if the players decide to befriend the castle full of tieflings. I think they're called the Order of the Black Swords, because they're actually working for two opposing devils.
Yeah, so plot twist is Asmodeus is behind Zardarok, who is a warlock who believes himself to be worshipping, or believes his patron to be Deep Dura, the Duragar god of conquest, but is in fact Asmodeus. And these tiefling knight cultist types, which we didn't get to talk about in the first section, but have inhabited a castle, are serving Levistus, the frozen god or demon lord of I forget the 4th or 5th level.
Yes,
I don't
the one
remember.
That's frozen. The
one that's frozen.
Niflheim.
The frozen hell.
No, whichever. But
I forget.
This is a great setup.
Yeah.
The one concern you should have as a dungeon master if you're using or stealing this is there's several layers of lies here, right? In Zardarok doesn't know he's working for Asmodeus, and Levistius might be being manipulated by Asmodeus. Players may never actually discover this is a conflict, and that would be sad if
there's a lot going on, which is cool, but also it's very layers on layers, and there's no reason you can easily resolve all of this satisfactorily without ever finding out that Asmodeus is behind any of it, which is a shame because it's neat. But sorry, there's a whole lot going on here. So the players go to the Spine of the World, they encounter, or they get to Sunblight, this Duragar fortress, and then a gigantic Chartlein dragon blasts out of the hillside and starts heading towards 10 towns. And this is the central conflict of both these chapters, and it's really interesting, but it's also complicated. So what's really interesting about it is that you're explicitly told, this is how fast the dragon moves, this is what he does when he reaches each of the 10 towns, and if you do nothing, the dragon will burn all of the 10 towns to the ground. It will obliterate all of them basically in their entirety. There'll be a handful of people left, but it's fucking brutal.
Yeah, it's super brutal. So 2 questions I sort of had after reading this as a dungeon master. I love kind of these big event set pieces, and there's no reason why you shouldn't include something like this in your own campaigns. My worry is, why does the dragon only attack when the players arrive, right? Could there be other conditions, right, other than for convenience sake? And then the other thing, since it only attacks when the players arrive, it's very difficult to actually, even if the players are present. God, this is so fucking complicated. I have backup here. Let's start with the first thing.
No, it's complicated.
Let's start with the first thing. The players arrive at the evil would-be conqueror's fortress. They see a monster engine of destruction head out to the 10 towns. It says they're presented with a choice: go back and chase the monster, or go in and kill the boss. If they make the wrong decision here, they're fucked in a way that could be very sad for your adventure.
Yeah, I mean, 1, it potentially fucks over their ability to continue the adventure. 2, on a less mechanical level, all the NPCs and people that they met are dead, or the vast majority of them. And it takes the dragon
2 hours to reach the first town.
12 hours to destroy all of the towns, around 12 hours. It takes it 2 hours to reach the first one, right? So the players are already a long way. They're probably not going to get back to the first town in time to save it. Rest in peace to Dugan's Hole. But if they really hurry, they might be able to save some of the other towns. But they have to leave right away. They basically have to see the dragon. They're like, oh, fuck. Time to turn our asses around and head back to the 10 towns. And if they don't do that, there's a problem.
Also, again, it's difficult because there's no hex map, and I can't remember how long it would take the players to get from Dugan's Hole to Sunblight. But, even if they make the decision, let's go defend the 10 towns against the monster that's attacking, if they choose the wrong town, right, they could go to the fortress and find the plans, right? But that's going to take time. If they choose the wrong town or go in the wrong sort of order, they may, miss the dragon entirely, which is pretty rough, right?
It's extremely rough. And the thing is that in Zardarok, there's a lot of clues to what the dragon is going to do. Like, one of the first rooms that you come to has like a map of the dragon's like route. And so presumably if the players get there and they're like, oh shit, we should better go stop that dragon. But then they've already gotten like decently far into the fortress. Who knows how long that's taken? You as the DM are probably supposed to keep track. Could have taken hours. God forbid they take a rest. If they don't like bust ass into that fortress and find this war room that has like a drawing with the dragon's path.
Big evil plan here.
They're not going to know what to do. So this I love, because I love like the tension of a big like set piece timed battle. I love the idea of a group of players coming, like rushing back. It's very Bard at the end of The Hobbit, protecting Lake Town from Smaug. It's good. It gives them a chance to be cool heroes and fight a badass metal dragon. But also, this is really easy to fuck up. Like, if your players don't make the right decision, a lot of people will die. And that's very heavy,
Yeah.
Even if they do make a good decision.
I guess the counter to this is, if you've been finding these 10 towns too hard to keep track of and you want to consolidate them into one town, it happens to be that all of our favorite adventure or NPCs survived. Hooray!
So if I were doing this differently, what I would probably have happen is that once the players have made it a certain distance into Zardarok, into Sunblight, then the dragon like bursts out, right? Like, not like before they even get there, because also, even if they know exactly what to do, that's annoying. They just trekked all the way to the spine of the world,
right?
And now they gotta turn back around, and then they gotta trek back and finish off Zardarok later. This is good. I like this, but it is very high stakes. It would be, in my opinion, very easy for players to get this wrong, and that's risky.
And I also just think maybe, consider, if you're the dungeon master, tweaking some of these things, because like, even if the characters are like, oh shit, there's a dragon going to attack, even if they're super prepared and they have the best overland travel that maybe a non-cheesy party could have, I still think the dragon basically outpaces them at every turn. The fastest is 1 mile an hour on dog sleds, right?
The thing is, there's no way that they can save the first town. They might be able to get to the second town while the dragon is destroying the first town. But like, let's see, they're not likely to be higher level than...
They're supposed to be like fourth level or fifth level?
Oh, yeah, fourth or fifth. It says they can advance to sixth in Sunblight. So they're not going to have teleport. They're not going to have phantom steed. They're not going to have flight. They may have some things, but they're not going to be able to outpace a dragon. So the dragon destroys Dugan's Hole, maybe Good Mead as well. Realistically, the players, if they know what they're doing, get to East Haven and stop him there. Let's talk about this broadly, and then let's talk about each chapter, because I don't want to get into too much specifics. But the point is that the players have to be really fucking Johnny on the spot to stop the dragon from dealing significant damage, which I think is good. I think that like a lot of D&D modules don't really have high stakes, and this is high fucking stakes. However, it also seems like a good way to, if you like, imagine your players dilly-dallying around a little bit and then figuring out,
in an adventure that encourages dilly-dallying around and making friends with everyone in all these despicable little peasant hovels everywhere.
They do what they normally do, and they spend 10 minutes, at every single door making sure it's not trapped, and then they finally get to, the room, and they're like, oh, fuck, this dragon is going to the 10 towns. We got to get back and stop it from destroying it. And they get there, and half the towns have been razed to the ground. They're going to feel like shit. They're going to feel real bad about that.
I think this is a thing where there's nothing that's stopping you as a dungeon master from gauging the level of players' love of the 10 towns and adjusting it accordingly so the players actually have a decent chance of stopping this thing. Because as written, most likely, if I was a player here, I would guess that this dragon would destroy most, if not all, of the towns.
If I were playing in this module, I have a feeling I would get to the room with the map and I'd be like, fuck, we got to go back. And depending on the timing of it, we'd get there halfway through and maybe be able to save half the towns tops.
However, if you're okay with that, it does sort of make an interesting, assuming the players defeat the dragon, that the players are like heroes for good of the 10 towns. They probably already helped lots of people.
Right.
And they're like, oh, they're the saviors. Maybe they're going to be in charge now or something like that. And they all have the dark secret that it was their arrival that caused this to happen. And they just can't let anyone know that they're like a fake superhero, that they caused the destruction. They
hundreds of people died that they could have saved if they hadn't spent so much time rummaging through the pockets of all the Duragar that they killed.
That's right. They're picking through these Duragars in their mecha suits, and they're like, oh, players trying to put one on and stuff. Well, we spent 30 minutes there. That's good mead.
That's one town.
Anyway,
this is
what else
is
do
good.
we want to say about these two chapters?
Let's talk a little bit about Sunblight itself. So this is this fortress in the spine of the world. It's run by Zardarok. There's a cool, again, this is like layers upon layers. I actually love all this like conspiracy and Machiavelli and, posturing. But like another Duragar clan has sent their matriarch, their grand dame, Grandolpha Musgart, to treat with Zardarok, and he wants to marry her, and she wants to usurp him, and like some of the Duragar are traitors.
Remember when we were talking about the endless dungeons full of just goblins in Lost Mines of Phandelver? It's like the people who wrote this were listening to our advice. It's like, add factions to your dungeons. Obviously they weren't. This is old advice that lots of people know, but it's a good example of this.
It's a good example. This is basically 30 rooms of Duragar. However, there are factions, there's conspiracies within, there's enough like other monsters thrown in. I'm not sure that
demons and some little mushroom
some
people.
Plots, mushroom people, underdark creatures. I'm not sure this is like one of my favorite dungeons, but it's a cool one, and it's definitely like varied enough to be worthwhile, even though like the major, you're going to be fighting a lot of Duragar, but there's enough of other stuff going on that makes this is really interesting. I think this will be really interesting to run. There's a lot to learn here. There's devils deceiving Duragar. There's Duragar deceiving other Duragar. There's captured fungus creatures. There's, all sorts of other good stuff. Duragar in mech suits.
That's right.
Yeah.
This is another thing of, even though a lot of the stuff in this module is kind of typical, and even though you're not given a lot of the connective tissues, I think this module really shines for dungeon masters and players who are willing to seek connections between things, right? Like, you could conceive of a party recruiting some of these traitor Duragar to go kill the Mind Flayers because they discovered they hate them, or recruiting the Mind Flayers to go kill the Duragar. And every single, like, random part of this adventure can connect usually in some way like that. So if you have parties that are fans of that, this is a great adventure for this.
Sorry, there's one really cool, horrible, fucked up part of this that I specifically want to call out.
Okay, yeah.
There's in the temple to Deep Dura, Zardarok has a mind flayer whose tentacles have been chopped off, and the part of its brain that allows it to do psychic stuff has been removed by the high priest of Deep Dura. That's like, they've got this like fucked up, like chained, mutilated mind flayer.
Mind flayer lobotomy. Ooh,
anyway,
new name of a band, Mind Flayer
that's a
Lobotomy.
Great, metal band. Anyway, remember, this is a horror campaign.
Yes.
It is sometimes actually quite horrible.
Yes.
There's a red dragon heart that powers the forge. This is cool. I like this. This is a good dungeon. There's nothing like smashing and stand out about it, but it's a good dungeon. You could take this and you could put it anywhere. You could borrow all parts of this. This is good. This is a really cool like chapter, I think.
This is case in point of cut and paste, chop out bits of this adventure because, these creatures live in the Underdark. They can attack anywhere. So you want to add this to your sick campaign, you can.
The point, sorry, the whole thing Zardarok is trying to do is, right, there's no sun in Icewind Dale, so he's trying to create a surface kingdom for Duergar. It's the whole thing is like a pretty like well thought out.
It makes sense,
plot.
Yeah.
There is like one major problem with this chapter, which is that if the players just go and kill the dragon, there's no reason to ever come back here. Like if they don't come back, it doesn't impact the adventure whatsoever.
Right.
I mean,
a little paragraph of advice on what, Zardarok would do in revenge would be nice, but, I'm fine with that. Like, I'm fine with my players skipping a chapter of a published adventure.
It's not a huge problem. It is a minor problem, right? Again, just something to be on the lookout for.
Yeah.
So this is the first of again, these are basically paired chapters. So chapter 4 is basically just about what happens when the dragon goes after 10 towns.
All right, shall we talk about chapter 5? Aurel's abode, the titular Frostmaiden herself.
Do we want to say anything about the dragon itself, about the fight? Like
it's a fine monster. They give you some advice on different parts. There's a lot of, you can give it different hit points if they show up at different times. This is a lot of behind the scenes stuff that players will not know. Like okay, this is, I think, fine, but I think it's a bad example of using space in the module. I don't know, like, there's at least, I don't know what it is on print, but at least a couple pages of this is how many people die in each town, and this is how much the dragon's hit points decrease for each town it goes to. You could easily just have a sentence being like, the dragon will kill probably half to 3/4 of the people in each town and lose 10 to 20 hit points each time it visits the town.
It's like a pretty good chapter on like, here's how the fight should go down with the dragon, here's how to adjust it. It takes a little bit of damage from the villagers as it goes through certain towns. If the players are struggling, here's some things that they can do. If your players don't have anything that can hurt a dragon, here's some other things that they can do while the more useful members of the party are doing something. But Matt's right. I'm not sure that all of this is useful or necessary.
My big critique is like, what if the players are 4th level? They've discovered the invisible dwarfs and they're like, listen, some major shit is going down. Maybe it's high level. We've played D&D before. We've got a stealthy party. We've got our snow winter gear, our rogue with invisibility, and we're going to sneak into Zardarok's fortress, right? Obviously, in that case, please don't send the dragon out to kill the towns. Like, again, my one critique is, why does the dragon attack when the players arrive, right?
Right. It makes for a very dramatic,
it's cinematic
set piece. But the other thing is, you're in charge. You can just hold that. You can hold that ace in the hole until like it makes sense. Like, you don't gotta like follow the campaign directly. If your players are doing something cool, if they're not ready for the dragon, let them explore the fortress a little bit. Have the dragon be released, midway through. Maybe they encounter Zardarok and he gives a big dumb villain speech,
Right. But maybe Zardarok uses the dragon as a threat to get what he wants from the players, right? Maybe a disarmament.
Would not want to
of course,
skip.
He just wants killing everyone. It's tough to
I would
negotiate.
not want to skip chapter 4 because it's so cool. And even if your players like don't love the 10 towns, like I feel like it's a lot of fun to go and be heroes. Also, killing dragons is what the game is all about, folks. It's called Dungeons and Dragons. So I wouldn't
technically
want to
not a dragon. It's a construct.
Sorry, it's a construct. I wouldn't want to rob your players of the opportunity to go and be, Bard the Archer, saving these, shithole towns from this gigantic metal construct. But you can also adjust it so that they are better prepared to both explore Sunblight and take out the dragon, which is, again, not a huge deal, but I don't know. The module's asking a lot of the DM already, so this is a thing I have a bit of a problem with, but also I really like these 2 chapters, so I'm gonna let it slide. All right, chapter 5.
Okay, I think chapters 5, 6, and 7 are my favorite of the adventure. Let's start with chapter 5. It's Aurel's abode. This is the super cool lair, a giant floating ice skull of the titular Frostmaiden.
That's right. You can go to the fortress of Grimscale, and encounter Aurel.
I mean, I guess these jokes are funny for Rob. Rob's laughing.
Matt doesn't like my Grayskull. It's literally a skull. It's called, fuck you, Matt.
Yeah,
Grimscale.
Well, no, I think that's the joke the authors are making. I just refuse to laugh.
Matt doesn't think it's funny. I also, there were, if this were a different set of authors, I would think this is a very obvious. Well, no, it's got to be a nod to Grayskull.
Of course it is. It's a nod to He-Man and She-Ra. Okay, this
who's
chapter
the She-Ra of this. Who's the He-Man and who's the She-Ra?
The player characters, Rob.
Sorry, I'm totally just the art on this is, again, it's pretty good art, but it's literally just like a frozen skull fortress. I'm sorry.
Yes. Well, it was built by frost giants, and it's inhabited now by Aurel, the lesser goddess of ice and preserving things in said ice. There's 2 parts to this chapter: the larger island, and then the sort of skull dungeon itself. So there's a fun part where players have many different ways to get there. It's difficult to get there. It's like basically being Arctic explorers and going to the North Pole. But the players should have a couple options up their sleeves.
And this is where theoretically, the rest of the adventure should sort of tie in. If you made friends with the awakened sperm whale, Engajuk, you can ride on his back.
Or the barbarians who can fly on griffins, or you've recovered a ship. There are many different ways.
This is good. I like that there are options that make the players feel like something they did mattered, and they can choose, how to get there. Matt, what do you think about the spurring sort of incitement to go here? The quest with Velen Harpel and the Arcane Brotherhood.
Right. Wait, doesn't Velen want us to go to Yithrin, not to take out the Frostmaiden?
Oh,
I think you're confusing things.
No. But Velen needs you to go to Grimscale to retrieve the Rime of the Frostmaiden.
Oh, right. So she can open the glacier.
And in the Codicil of White, which was stolen. No, that's not true. Sorry. Another thing.
I need to take back what I said before, in that I had forgot about this particular gatekeeping, in that these adventures do have to go in a specific order.
They do, but Matt, actually, I think it demonstrates the fact that you forgot this. It doesn't really matter, right? Like, if your players don't need to be told by Velen Harpel to go to Grimscale and confront Aurel. That is just like, if they don't in time, Velen Harpel can show up and say, hello.
Yes.
Let's go here, Right.
My big critique here is it's not. It shouldn't be a critique for how most of you would run this. Is do not present these final 3 adventures as Velen Harpel, a member of the Arcane Brotherhood and a very cool NPC, as someone telling the players to do these things. Right. That's your last resort in case they forget or need to be reminded. But I think your players are gonna, once they discover the location of Aurel's lair, being like, well, let's go see if we can mess with her or even take her down, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, she's the one causing most of the problems.
Yeah.
The one thing the other thing is there's a thing later on. I guess we should talk about Velen now, that she can accompany you to the Lost City, and I hate having this unless the players really, really love this crotchety old necromancer and her kobold entourage. I would rather them not take Velen, right?
It is written as if Velen accompanies the players, which, again, she's a pretty cool NPC, but I really don't like party NPCs in general. It's honestly hard for me to keep track of them. It's a bunch of extra nonsense. You got to be like, oh, they're doing something in combat, but not too much. However,
you can tell the writers really loved this NPC. But
yeah,
this is
it's a good NPC.
It's a good NPC. She's got these all cute little kobold minions covered in skulls, and she's got a skull she talks to. It's great. But don't make your players bring your favorite NPC along unless they absolutely want to.
I will give credit to the writers is that this is not like your standard annoying self-insert NPC. Like, this is nobody's fantasy version of themselves. This is just a cool NPC that they liked, and they were like, this is how we're going to guide the players through the next 3 chapters. But she is not necessary. She does have this item, which is a Professor Orb, which is a sentient...
Professor Scant.
Which, that's right, produces this intellect that can guide you, called Professor Scant.
This is what happens to professors who fail to get tenure after the first 3 years.
It's
Publish or perish.
Publish or perish. It's basically Navi or... what's that annoying fucking robot from Halo? The Archive or whatever.
Yeah, the Archivist, Guiding Light 134 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, or your ghost in Destiny. It's just like a robot that talks to you. I like Professor Scant. The way that he's written, he has a lot of clever things to say, but it's just an orb, and your players can or can choose to consult him if they want to. Include him. Don't include Velen. I'm sorry. This is not super relevant, but I guess we should have talked about her anyway. Anyway, she comes with you, takes you to the island of Solstice, this frozen island where Grimscale is.
I like this dungeon, and I like this section because this adventure has a very clear boss, and the boss is very fun. There are 3 forms of the Frostmaiden. Players to truly defeat her have to defeat all of them, or they could just, if they want to be sneaky about it and not risk their skins, they can just take out her rock, and that will end the winter. And I love that, and of course cause consequences as Arl is still around now and will make mad. It's otherwise a fine dungeon. What I'm curious about these tests. When the players arrive, there are 4 rooms where, magic bullshit happens, and my players tend to not like it when it's like you step into the room, everything fades away, you're teleported to this place where you got to figure out what the adventure wants you to do, what Auril wants you to do. On one hand, goddesses are particular. On the other hand...
So there's these 4 tests that align to the Frostmaiden's portfolio: cruelty, endurance, isolation, and preservation. And there's some magical bullshit that happens. You walk into these
Long
rooms.
ago, the 4 portfolios lived in harmony. Everything changed when unexpectedly cruelty attacked.
You walk into these rooms and you're teleported away, and you have to overcome this test. And the tests are okay. I've talked about a lot how about I like it when there's social tests or intellect, any sort of encounter or conflict that the players have to solve without just bludgeoning something to death.
They're very much a puzzle, right? Each one's a puzzle. It may not appear that way, but
and they're social puzzles, right? You're basically, I think in each of them you come into contact with one of the tribes of the area, the Reged, and you have to do something with the tribe. One case they're out of food, another they're out in the winter, another somebody's alone, blah, 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 blah. They're pretty well-designed tests. I think it's not clear what you're supposed to do, and some of it is kind of counterintuitive to especially good adventurers. But I didn't love this part. I don't know. I like the cleverness. I think my players would probably find it very frustrating. So I'm kind of, I don't know.
Right. You go through a door marked cruelty, right? And you show up at a camp of starving barbarians, and you need to kill one of them to be cruel, right? I mean, yeah. So the reward for passing all these tests is you get immunity to cold damage, which is pretty sweet. But I don't know. I would, if it was me, I would make the test a puzzle in that room of the dungeon, just because my particular players have a strong aversion to bullshit your whisked away somewhere and then bullshit your whisked back. So that's the downside of this, but otherwise, I like this dungeon and I like the boss fights. I looked at the stats of these and I really, really enjoy the sort of 3 forms of Auril. Like, don't you wish you could prolong the magic, Rob? Make your boss fights last longer? Here's where the MMO influences to this adventure pay off, right?
Boo Saga, Frieza Saga, Dragon Ball Z, you defeat Auril and she says, "Ha, this isn't even my final form." And then she does that twice. And each of them is like distinctly different and is challenging in its own way. These are also really fucking hard fights. And you got to fight Auril 3 times if you want to actually defeat her, which is probably doable for a party of 7th level, 8th level adventurers, but it's gonna be a challenge. It's definitely going to take them to the limit for sure.
My other critique here, and something you might want to consider adding if you're planning on stealing this adventure, and again, if you want to reflavor the ice stuff, right, and have a lesser god in your campaign, there's some great things you can steal for your own adventure here. My one critique is I feel like each form should have like a sweet ass magic item. Like, why doesn't her owl feather cloak turn into a cloak that, gives flying? Why doesn't her ice gauntlet, be a loot? When you kill her final thing, right, which is her divine spark itself, of course, she can come back as long as she has worshippers.
We should clarify exactly what the 3 forms are real quick.
Yeah.
Because Matt's right, they're very cool. And I agree. I wish that they dropped
better.
I wish
reward.
they dropped loot,
Yes.
Drop some fucking loot. The first one is a gigantic snowy owl bear form. The second is just like big
ice lady.
And the third is, like Matt said, just like a heart of ice, like a small core elemental. And each of these can seriously fuck up your players, have legendary actions and resistances, and this is a good boss design. I really like this. It should be hard to kill even a minor deity whose power is all wrapped up in keeping the night sky or keeping the sun from rising. And this definitely feels like you have to fucking earn it.
Yes. My other critique or thing you should consider adding if you're stealing or running this is killing. It would be nice to have a page on the consequences of killing Auril, right? It says that she will come back on the next winter solstice with her full powers, more powerful than before, which is something I didn't understand. I thought she would come back in a weakened form. I'm not sure why killing her and having her come back on the winter solstice means she'll be more powerful than ever. Plus, I think it's a great opportunity for storytelling. Her third form, the Winter's Womb, which is just a big block of ice, it says in the text, contains the god's divine spark, right? I feel like if the players defeat that form, they should have a tiny mote of that divine spark and have to decide what to do with that. And some advice or thinking on that would be fun or appreciated.
Well, one thing that's cool about, again, if you make it through all of these tests, you can receive the Blessing of the Frostmaiden, which is, among other things, you are immune to cold damage and can cast Cone of Cold once per long rest. This is cool. I love giving out these types of blessings to high-level adventurers who have accomplished great things.
You have to kill an orphan and a bunch of other things.
But the problem is, if you kill Auril, you lose it because she's dead. What should happen is that the players should be able to receive this blessing or like absorb a fraction of her power or something. They should get something cool for killing Auril, you know?
Yeah, it could be one of the boons, or it could be just a really interesting plot. Is there a fight among the other gods to take over Auril's admittedly small but still powerful portfolio, right? Is there a chance for a new god to be raised? Could that god be one of the player characters or their allies, right? You know, this could be, there's some advice on continuing the adventure, and we're going to save it for later, but this would be the main thing I would want to continue in the adventure, because it's the main driving force of the campaign, as far as there is anyone.
Yeah. Matt.
Yes.
We bow to she who wears the crown. Let the world shiver with dread.
Woo.
Clad in winter's whitest gown, her snow enshrouds the dead. Her fury sheds but frozen tears as gray clouds issue forth. Her wind across the wasteland shears, bringing blizzards from the north. I'm sorry, I'm not going to read the whole thing.
I know this one. The answer is the jet stream.
This is the aforementioned titular Rime of the Frostmaiden, folks. It is all there in its 6 stanza glory. And again, the thing is, you don't really need to do anything here. You don't really even need to kill Auril. But to progress to the next section, you do need the Rime of the Frostmaiden, which you get from the Codicil of White, which contains, among other things, a new spell, which is a really exciting treat if you have any spellcasters in your party that can learn spells.
The sad thing is it's just burning hands, but cold damage.
Yeah, but still, I don't know.
Okay.
It's neat. Learning new spells is cool, but you're right.
Not super useful in this adventure either, where everything's immune to cold damage.
Immune to cold. Yeah, there's no reason why you'd ever use this, but I don't know.
Fuck you. This spell will be worse than anything you could cast.
You'll learn a new spell. Whatever. Anyway, so you get to you find the Codicil of White, or your players do, which allows them to learn the Rime of the Frostmaiden, which allows them to go to the next chapter, which is...
So I think these final 2 chapters go together, is chapter 6, Caves of Hunger, and chapter 7, The Doom of Yithrin. So a winding bit of exploring a sealed glacier, and within that glacier is a giant city, which is sort of one big dungeon without a map, that it has everything detailed out on it, but a beautiful bit of art.
A Netherese city, which again has been foreshadowed very heavily throughout the adventure.
The players have most certainly found the spire, or why is all this Chartland here, right? Why the Netherese were here in the first place. And I have to say, these 2 sections are great, particularly for me, because I think the Netherese Empire is the one bit of forgotten realms history that I think most of deep history, right? That I think most players know and is interesting, right?
It's actually something you care about, are interested in, has some interesting lore. This is some of the actually more, in my opinion, I agree with Matt, more compelling Forgotten Realms stuff. I think that will excite both new players and old players, because there's a lot of good stuff here.
The Netherese Empire is imagine all the evil wizards from a Jack Vance novel were alive and in their prime with an empire with their weird, servants that look like people but are in fact have the brains of animals and are green and have 6 fingers and flying cities, and it's that.
It's that.
They had better magic than you. They had a better system of spell casting.
Yeah.
They had the Arcanist class, not the Wizard class, Rob.
And this is a bit like Numenera, right? This is a ancient, highly advanced, magic, maybe even magic tech empire.
Spy coaches.
Yeah, that's just way more advanced, visually, technologically, magically, especially, than anything that you've got. And so every time you go delving in any sort of Netherese dungeon, you're going to find something cool.
According to 3rd edition lore, the true secret to the Netherese's power, or one of them, is they learned how to create magic items without expending XP. So, in a sense, we're all Netherese now.
That's right.
Which is good.
Do we want to briefly? The Netherese are cool. They found the Nether Scrolls.
Right.
Not to be confused with the Elder Scrolls, which allowed them to create flying cities and do all sorts of magic things. But their secret was that there were magic vampire abominations like destroying the weave from below, the Faerim.
Right. Their spell casting was destroying the weave, and yes, there was also the Faerim, and then one guy was like, I'll become Mistral, and killed Mistral.
Tried to kill Mistral and then disrupted the weave, and all the cities crashed. Anyway.
But this one crashed earlier, which is a little confusing.
This one crashed earlier than the others, which I assume is why it's still intact.
Right.
And it crashed because of, I forget why.
They messed with some frost giant stuff.
That's right. They found
even older. And this is the great thing, right, that I like about this particular section is the players will discover that this Netherese city from an ancient empire was investigated an earlier ancient empire, and they fucked up finding something
and they fucked it up.
And it's like, maybe the players will do this again. One of the fun things about the city and the caves is there's some fun ice monsters. I love the ice dryad. Of course, you got some Rimmerazes, some snow golems, a gnoll vampire.
Yes.
And it's kobold vampire spawn.
The first, chapter 6 is sort of like the entire time the players are hounded by Tekeli Lee, the gnoll vampire who stalks them and laughs in the ice caves and runs away whenever he gets damaged. I love this. I love being stalked by a horrible gnoll vampire.
Insane gnoll vampire. It's great.
It's scary. It's fun. There's a lot in here. There's some Remorazes. There's some Drow. There's some snow golems and vampire spawn kobolds. Good. Again, this could be borrowed and put anywhere. Great, fun, scary dungeon. Big fan. This is, however, mostly just like a passageway, right? You're just trying to get through the caves of hunger to get to Yithrin, but it's a very exciting and interesting traversal.
It's the weakest of these 4 chapters, I think, in like what the goal is, right? It is just point A to point B, but I absolutely love pretty much every encounter in this dungeon. I think
there's a lot of really good stuff in here.
Especially compared to maybe Sunblight Fortress, right? Your players are going to not get as easily bored in this dungeon.
Yeah.
Doing the crawling. The best art, so there's so much good art in this book, right? The Frostmaiden herself. There's a picture of 3 kobolds in a trench coat. But my favorite art is just this trapped in ice, flying city of Yithrin. It is so cool. And the basic thing is, and I love art of a location that you can just show to the players, right? Mm-hmm. The players come in a cave in the ice, and you can literally hand them the player version of this art and be like, hey, you're on a precipice. You look out over this city. This is what you can see. And players are going to be like, hell yes, this is cool.
It's awesome. So like Matt mentioned, this is Yithrin. There's no grid map, right? But each of the locations is very well explained. So you're encouraged to do some theater of the mind here. You could draw your own maps. I like this. I think this is by the time that your players reach this level, they're grown-ups. They can figure out how to deal without a hex map or a grid map. I mean, and you could make one if you wanted to, but I like this decision.
I do too. The only downside is there could be a few things about like, oh, here's the cool environmental thing that will make this challenge or exploration interesting. But yeah, other than that, it's perfect. One of the fun things about this section is basically the boss shows up right away in a great inversion. There's an evil Demilich who used to rule the city with his 8 evil archmages. And he's a Demilich, and Demiliches forget things, and he just kind of shows up and watches them, which is fun. The players can attack him and have a fight and maybe lose, or they can just kind of let him creepily follow them around.
Or they can lie and say, hey, we're friends.
From the other.
Yeah, we're from the other Netherese city.
If the players have picked up a name, which is a good reason to give them like an old set of names when they find Professor Scant and be like, here's all the facts of Netherese, so they can pull up that paper and be like, actually, we're from Sorry, I had this book pulled up. We're from we traveled through the time gates, and we're from fuck it, whatever. We're from another Netherese city.
From another Netherese city, and it's not a very hard deception check. So if your players are inveterate bullshitters like mine usually are, it may for once in their lives actually pay off for them. Like they may be like, we're servants of Joe Bob, the other Netherese. Haven't you heard of him? He's in that other city. Anyway, we're just here to do maintenance. And if they even are like vaguely convincing, the Demi-Lich, Eriolarthus, will be like, sure, fine, whatever. And they can choose to like let him tag along. They can try to fight him later, or they can just ignore him, which is pretty interesting. There's so much happening.
Yes. In this city. This is another thing to steal. Just steal this city. If you want a crash city of an ancient evil empire, just take it, right? You've got the green skin Maidens. You've got basically one big threat to the players is the more time they spend here, they might get turned into a Nothic, and there are evil Nothics everywhere. There was a lot of talk about the Thing being inspiration here, and I guess this is the most Thing-like situation we get. Maybe I'm missing something from one of the smaller adventures, but yes, you will get turned into a Nothic unless you're careful.
I mean, there's like the mimics. There's a lot of mimic action, which is a little bit Thing-like, I guess, but yeah. You'll get turned into a Nothic for sure. All right.
Yes.
There's 3 things I want to talk about here. There's a lot of interesting magical loot obviously in in Ythryn, the Netherese city. You can find on Eriolarthus's corpse a staff of power, which is a pretty
always a good one.
Always a good one. You can find a bunch of Quicksilver and his spellbook, and you can also find a scroll of Torask summoning.
Yes.
Which I am just delighted by.
Yes.
And let me tell you why I'm delighted by. There is absolutely no reason to ever summon a Torask.
No.
But I'm not sure that your players...
give it a 90% chance the players do it.
I'm not sure that anyone's players are going to be able to resist the urge to cast this spell, which is so fucking funny, because what happens, according to the book, and I agree with sort of this outcome, is it smashes the shit out of everything and then rampages through Icewind Dale until somebody stops it. Which
no one in Icewind Dale can stop it.
No one can stop it. Yeah, it will do what the Charlin Dragon failed to do, which is destroy all of the 10 towns and then keep going, go to sleep. Who knows? This is just like a great dumb thing to include. I love it when you provide like very obvious traps to your players. Don't punish them for doing something they like should do or might do. Do punish them for making bad decisions. And a scroll of Torask summoning is exactly that.
Yes. You could, it does suggest you could deploy the Torask to Aurel's Island, which the Torask will destroy Aurel's Island, but not Aurel, and then get tired and sleepy in the bottom of the icy waters of the Sea of Moving Ice, which I suppose makes sense. Yeah, there are so many cool monsters here. My personal favorite is the Brain in a Jar, which is a new monster, at least new to 5th edition, that's been in most other editions, on top of a helmed horror. Perfect.
That's right. And
the art
this one
is great. The Blue Slad, who's a astronomer, is also great.
Yeah, it's the Veneranda, a wizard who's now a Brain in the Jar atop a helmed horror. Incredible. This is such a rich and interesting dungeon. Like every room has something cool in it, and either an interesting monster or an interesting item or an interesting trap. There's a whole stadium for the Netherese like sport, which is chain lightning, where you try to like conduct and shoot lightning through like gates, and like it even tells you how to play it. And if your players like stumble into the stadium, they may end up
activates
playing a game of chain lightning against a bunch of Megan. this is just like a great, fun, cool dungeon. It's worth noting like a couple things. You can fight Arthas, or you could not. You can also theoretically, this is when you encounter the Arcane Brotherhood. If you have Velen Harpel with you, or they finally get there and haven't been killed by something else, and you might end up fighting them. I could take this or leave this. I don't know that I particularly care. If you did befriend the Knights of the Black Sword earlier, then this is sort of when you would have to unbefriend them and kill them because they serve Avarice, one of the members of the Arcane Brotherhood. You can also, if you didn't do things in the order that you sort of are encouraged to by the book, you can also encounter Auril here. She will show up pissed that you're plundering Yithrin, and if you did not fight her 3 forms then, you will fight her 3 forms now.
Which is also fine, right? Which is one of the great things about the earlier thing, is that the players decide just to kill the rock or something like that, they can have their big boss fight here, which is just as great of a setting for fighting a god as anywhere. So
here's the thing about Yithrin. I love this chapter. I have no complaints. However, what's the connection to the rest of the adventure? I mean, there's some things that lead to it, but this does feel a little bit tacked on at the end, because rightfully so, your players might be thinking that the most important thing is to defeat Auril because she has, made Icewind Dale into Forever Night. And I would hope that they would want to go on to Yithrin, but it's not like there's like a greater, darker, more pressing threat in Yithrin. It's just a cool, interesting place to go.
And this is fine, right? Not everything out in Icewind Dale has to be a threat, right? It's like, I think having more, I feel like maybe somewhere there's a rumor about the basically power core of this city can do weather control, which might spur the players to be like, oh, well, maybe our solution to our problem is over here. If there isn't, be sure to put a couple hints to that.
I'm having trouble imagining any DM having trouble getting their players to go here. It's just, I like also, that it's a bit more freeform, but I also wanted there to be a little bit of a through line, I guess. I'm looking for a connection that's not really there.
I'm fine without the connection.
That being said, this is an amazing chapter. So much fun, so cool. Steal it for any other adventure.
Now, we've brought up most of the interesting monsters and magic items, but I do want to talk about what to do to continue the adventure.
So the epilogue, I'm a big fan of this epilogue for a few reasons. I think they do a really good job of telling you what to do to continue. And Matt, did you have something specific about this?
So I sort of brought this point up already. I would have liked, I think Paizo does its epilogues much, much better in that they give you about 5 epilogues to choose from. For continuing the adventure. This one gives you really 1.5, right? Here's what I think, in my opinion, the epilogue should be. There should be one about playing Kingmaker or building the 10 towns up to become. There's no reason if that, like, let's say they've killed Auril and they've used the Yithrin Mithlarar to make the 10 towns warmer, that the 10 towns couldn't grow to become like one city in a generation. There's ample natural resources and forgotten ores that would make great trading. I think there should be a thing of advice on, hey, the player characters want to make the 10 towns a cosmopolitan place as powerful as Luskin or Neverwinter. That should be one.
Yeah. There's several like hints of things that could make a good further adventure. There's a hole to the Underdark in the Caves of Hunger. Mm-hmm. There's no reason to go there, and your players should probably turn around if they go. But there's hints of Duragar influence and Drow and Mind Flayers, and that could be a great next step, right? More Underdark creatures start spilling in even without the eternal darkness. And yeah, that could be good. There's any number of things that you baddies you encountered. I mean, of course, there's always Asmodeus and Levistus.
Right. But again, like, so this is a logical continuation, right? The downfall is there should be, just like there is for the one we're going to talk about in a second, there should be a 5-paragraph page on Asmodeus versus a song of ice and fire, if you will.
Right.
Fire and ice devil, how
Right.
how the consequences of messing with their rivalry will play out, and what the players can do.
A good point. He and I can come up with like ideas all day long, but there should be something more than what they've got, which is, here's some things that might happen. If Oral comes back, she's done meddling with the affairs of mortals, and you'll not have to deal with her again, blah, 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 blah.
The thing I don't get is if she comes back, she's more powerful than before.
But Matt, according to the module, her inclination is to retreat from the world and not allow herself to be imperiled by mortals once more.
Okay.
The characters won't have to deal with her again. It says it right there, Matt.
I feel like the module is lying to us. I feel like Arl will be very, very angry and wants her revenge will be best served cold.
Leaving that aside, now is the moment when we talk about the Year of Chilled Marrow.
Yes.
Matt, I thought this was fucking great because I was not really expecting this at the end of the epilogue, and I had barely paid attention to the whole Staff of Power obelisk thing. So here's what this is. If there's an obelisk in the middle of Ythryn, and correct me if I'm wrong, Matt, but I'm not really sure it's like super clear what the obelisk is for.
So the obelisk, remember, are part of the obelisks that have been seeded through many of the 5e adventures that are probably connected to an eventual adventure that Wizards is going to release centered around Vecna.
Yes, sorry. You and I, listener, being experts that we are, know what the obelisks are for.
We all know what the obelisks are for.
There have been references in the Tomb of Annihilation and Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage, but it's not clear in the adventure or to the players what it is. It's an obelisk, and there is you can use the staff to activate it. If the players choose to do this, something interesting happens.
This is something that the players should know the consequences of this, or they might be very, very sad. Or maybe not. Maybe you're the kind of like, all right, the adventure is completely changed because what happens, Rob?
The Staff of Power, if you use Eriolarthus' staff to activate the obelisk, you reset the world. Time reverts 1,500 years back to the year that Ythryn crashed. Negative 343 in the Dale Reckoning.
What in Coromir Reckoning, though?
I don't know. I'm sorry. Not up on my Cormier calendar. The year of Chilled Marrow. And the thing is, this is permanent. This is done. Like this is not like, oh no, we got to find another.
We got to go back to the future.
We got to go back to the future. No, you're stuck.
It's about your children, Velen. The Arcane Brotherhood.
You're now on a floating city under the rule of the Lich Eriolarthus, who's not a skull. He's a full Lich. All of his 8 evil X's, 8 archmages are there, and you're just there. You're just fucking there in the middle of the Netherese Empire, which is cool, right? This is a super cool thing. But if your players are like, oh boy, I can't wait to go back to Waterdeep and see my family, you're just gonna be like, fuck you, your family isn't gonna be born for another 1,500 years. Good luck, man. I think this is a super awesome twist, but like some other things in this adventure, it's kind of a risky thing to just throw at your players without any warning.
Absolutely, right? It's you're not going back to the year negative 300. You're going back to the year 3415 in the Netherese calendar, right?
Yeah.
You are stuck there, right? Now, obviously, there's nothing stopping you as a dungeon master for them finding a way to time travel back. But one of the very first things that they could do in this adventure is, get the Netherese's favor by being like, hey, if you do that, your city will fall to the ground. And they'll be like, hey, we're evil, but you helped us out. Sure, thanks. You saved our city.
They could try to stop Karsus from killing Mistral and completely change. You could be like, you could pull out your second edition books and be like, this is a second edition adventure now, boys.
Yes. And Rob, I did. If you, like Rob and I, are most interested in this way of continuing the adventure, I've got you covered. What you're going to need is Nethril, Empire of Magic from the second edition by Slade and Jim Butler. You're also, if you don't want to go that deep and want to just make up more of it yourself, you could grab the excellent third edition, Lost Empires of Faerun by Richard Baker, Ed Bonney, and Travis Stout. If you want an adventure that you could actually follow next, which I don't recommend because it's not super great, but it does pick up at the exact level your characters are at, for second edition, How the Mighty Are Fallen by Slade. Which, by the way, Rob, How the Mighty Are Fallen takes the players to not just a Spelljammer, not just to a Netherese flying city, but to a Netherese flying Spelljammer city. And they get to travel around realm space. However,
cool. Not a good adventure, though. Yeah.
It's okay, right? It's a second edition adventure.
We have spent about 2.5 hours talking about Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frostmaiden. Let's try to wrap this up quickly. There's about 1,000 more things that we could say. I think by now you probably have a good sense of how we feel about it. Ultimately, it's got a bunch of problems, but it's super fucking cool. I really liked it. It's I've got so many ideas from this. I'm gonna borrow and pick and steal. I'm always like sort of like on the fence about buying published Wizards campaigns because I'm probably not gonna run them. But I do like to like borrow and get ideas. And this one, 100% worth buying. There's so much. I might even run this. If I didn't, I would definitely borrow bits and pieces. This is well written. It is interesting. It is new. It is fresh. It is a good horror module. It does a lot of interesting stuff. I'm a big fan. A+. A minus. A minus for some, missing pieces where that we would have liked to have seen them. But all in all, worth reading.
Yes, I mostly agree with Rob. I don't think it's a good horror module. I do think it's a great sandbox adventure. I'm also going to give it an A-, which is the grading scale we've always used for adventures, the same as grades. You can go back to our other reviews and find the ratings we've given other things.
Definitely have said A- in the past. Though we're thinking about switching to a numerical scale. This would be a 92, 93, kind of depends. But, we're sticking to what we've always done, which is a letter grade.
This is such a great adventure in a lot of ways. Its biggest strength is the ability to steal these very thematic, big and short adventures. Short ones from the beginning, larger ones from the end. Its big weakness, right, is that just I'm still waiting for an intrepid fan out there to map out all the connections between the different adventure nodes so that a dungeon master can begin to make sense of the first part. I love the open-endedness of the first part. The big problem is it's a hell of a thing to keep track of, and a lot of the early adventures don't make sense to me. But some of them are great, so it makes up for it. The ending adventures are, really 4 out of 5. They knocked them out of the park.
So yeah, check this out. Major props to this writing team. This is really, really good. More of this, please, Wizards. This was great. Please include a hex map next time. And
a giant flowchart. Please, as soon as the first fan makes the flowchart that connects every Tin Town location and adventure with secrets and rumors, please send us that link, because I thought about doing it for this episode, and I do not have the time. It is a massive undertaking.
It's a thing. All right, thanks everybody. We will do letters next week. We will answer some. I know they're starting to pile up. Thank you all for listening. Please rate, review, subscribe, leave a comment, tell your friends, and keep rolling them dice.
All right, I'm going to go chill, Rob, after this long episode.
Matt, have a nice day.
Let's kick it. Ice, ice, baby. Ice, ice, baby. All right, stop. Collaborate and listen. Ice is back with a brand new invention. Something grabs a hold of me tightly. Flow like a harpoon daily and nightly. Will it ever stop? Yo, I don't know. Turn off the lights, and I'll glow. To the extreme, I rock a mic like a vandal. Light up a stage and wax a chump like a candle. Dance, rush the speaker that booms. I'm killing your brain like a poisonous mushroom. Deadly, when I play a is a felony. Love it or leave it, you better gain weight. You better hit the bullseye, the kid don't play. And if there was a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Check out the hook while my DJ revolves it. Ice.